Arist on Call. Arist on Call.
So this is the first Arist on Call remix ever recorded. So basically, like you guys just heard, this segment is recorded with previous Artist on Calls that come back to return. And this week we have Haelphon. What's going on, man? How have you been?
I'm good, dude. How are you?
I'm freaking awesome, man. This is so
Thank you
great
for having
seeing
me
you.
back.
Dude,
Yeah, it's good to
thanks
see you too.
Thanks for coming back. This is crazy. Like, you must be pretty busy with the latest single. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually want to start off with an anecdote before we get into the single, because
Absolutely.
as we were getting set up, I had this really cringy memory that came to me about how the last time we ended the call. And I don't know if you remember how that ended.
I don't.
But I'm somebody who's very anxious about people's names, and we talked for something like 2 or 3 hours. And this stuck with me for, now it's a year later that this is still sticking with me. But I was so confident that I was like, yeah, is it Andy or Andrew? And you were like, oh, it's neither. It's actually Alex. And I was like, oh, shit. I just talked to this guy for 2 hours, and I get so anxious about people's names. And I went full in on this, being like, yes, this is it. I know it. I don't have to worry about it. And it was just a complete whiff. But we're here 2 years later, or like a year and a half. So thanks for having me back.
I'm like, no, dude, it's Alfonso. How are you that far off? Like,
How
come
could
on.
you miss that?
Yeah. No, dude, no problem. Like, that's so freaking funny. Like, half the time it's hard for me too, because artists, I only get their stage names. So it's like, I'm on here, I'm like, oh shit, how do I address you? But it's like, I know, it goes
As
both
sir,
ways.
thanks.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's absolutely totally fine.
Cool. So, I mean, yeah, I had to make sure that it was still cool. It was still on my mind. So
I'm actually really offended. I couldn't wait for you to come back on so I could be like, yo, dude, like, do you remember my name now? Like, what's going on?
This really is the hot seat.
Yeah, seriously.
So the single just came out. I told my friends about you. This is the first time I've released anything in, I want to say, about a year and a half. So around the same time that we talked, because I think I put out the In Transit EP in June or July of 2021.
Which is sick. Like, anybody who hasn't heard In Transit by Haelphon, go listen to it now. Haelphon. Search it up. But yeah, so Told My Friends About You is actually the new single too. He's not telling you that he told his friends about me. The song is
told
actually
my friends about you.
Exactly.
About the time I got your name wrong.
Exactly,
I did tell my friends about you the time I got your name wrong.
It's a good story.
So basically, this is the first time that I wouldn't even consider it breaking my silence, because I'm still around and doing things. I was in New York, I'm back in Boston, and we were finishing the album that I have coming out, hopefully in the spring of 2023. So we felt that we needed something that was really, really just fun to start bringing everything back. So I told my friends about you, something that was literally started off with a guitar sample, and the rest has flowed really, really well into this just fun, energetic track about the complexities of relationships and dating in 2022. And it is, I gotta say, quite a vibe. I really enjoy the track, and I've mastered it and mixed it, and so has AJ, and we've listened to it hundreds of times, and I'm not sick of it, which is good sign.
Still all this time later, still working with AJ.
Still working with AJ. So AJ Paulette is my engineer. We met during the pandemic on Instagram. So while everybody was getting gung-ho about social media, trying to become influencers, met a couple good people, AJ being one of them. And he and I worked together through our durations in New York. He's in Los Angeles now, still doing the same thing, just changed the locale. And we went through, did a bunch of singles, did the EP, and then we did the album Yuppie, which is coming out again at some point next year. We're just finalizing the details.
Dude, that's pretty sick. So, like, what was the inspiration behind this single? Like, what made you write? Like, what does it mean? Told My Friends About You.
That's a great question. I Told My Friends About You really stems from New York, what it's like dating in your mid-20s in the biggest city in the world. I know I come across as a chill person, but I tend to be really anxious about things. And for me, that manifests as anxious attachment a lot, which I think actually occurs with a lot of people. And the more I talk to friends of mine that are my age, the more we kind of realize that we had this shared thing in common for those of us who go through this sort of thing. So what that looks like is, you know, everybody's super connected in the digital age, and there are a lot of themes of what that looks like throughout the track.
We will get in, you will hear, I told my friends about you. But before we get into that, let's talk more about what's been going on lately. How have you been since the last time you came on? Like, how have you evolved? I'm sure this song has its like evolution elements that, you know, I heard on the first, album that we talked about last time, In Transit, when I played Cold Carolina on here.
True.
How would you compare that experience from In Transit to this new experience with this new single being a few years apart?
There are a lot of similar veins. I think when we were playing around with In Transit, Stranded, Cold Carolina, and the other tracks on there too get a lot more experimental with things. So taking that sample in particular, it still brings back that folktronic Avicii type sound, but it always has my twist on it. So there's nobody in particular that I'm here trying to be, but there are a lot of inspirations. So, you know, you're gonna have Mac come back into the fold, and then you know,
Seriously.
the Avicii's, the Calvin Harris's of the world. The EDM elements are still there, but it gets a little bit more lax, and I think it tees everything up really well for what's coming in the future too. This particular single isn't on the album coming up. Someone asked me that. They're like, "Is this part of it?" I'm like, "It's actually not. It's just promotional." But it's sort of it's meant to bridge the gap between the old stuff, which is actually on the album, and the new stuff coming out. I have a tendency to get ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So I'll have an album finished and then I'm already working on the next one. So I've got to keep myself sort of grounded to be like, all right,
There's a
can't get
there, there's worse problems as an artist.
yeah, I know, right? Well, I mean, you can always have I get writer's block like crazy too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is it takes months sometimes to get these tracks out. What's special about I told my friends about you is once I had the sample and everything laid out, I had most of the track written within like a week or two. So I recorded the whole thing out and then it was good to go. Sent it out to AJ. AJ mixed and mastered it, and we were ready for publication. It was weirdly one of the easier processes because we'll be sitting in the studio trying to get everything out. And I'm just like, I can't get the words to flow, man. I'm like, I don't know. I've said this word, I've said just 40 times, and I already used this verb on another song, and it's a very specific verb. So I can't use the word sentimental again because I've used the word sentimental like 6 times.
Dude,
So,
seriously, one of the biggest challenges as a writer is
right?
repetition.
Because
Yeah,
you think that people aren't going to notice it, and they
absolutely.
probably don't. But if you use, I'm trying to think of a specific, I can't think of any specific words that come to mind immediately. So I guess it means that I'm obviously overthinking about it when I'm writing. Yeah.
I use the like way
Fucking
too much. It's like, and come on, dude.
Yeah.
And you use it every freaking time.
But also conjunctions too, specifically. Like you can say but, and all these things.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
like, well, I already did that throughout the song. Starting a song with I.
Well, the artistic thing, the artistic thing about it, it's like, yo, he's so
Yep.
selfish. But like
Me.
but the thing about it is like the words that you reuse, the best artists are the ones that reuse them and deliver them a different way. You know, use the syllables in the word rather than deliver the whole word at once. You know, use it to their advantage. You know, those are the best artists, because then like as a listener, you don't even pay attention. You're like, he could have said that in 100 songs, but he did 100 different ways in every song, so you never know. You know, so that's another strategy around it. But yeah, absolutely. Like it's when it gets redundant, it's not that great.
Yeah. No, I think about that too. Is the phrase "my mind" in whichever way or form will sneak its way. It's one of my go-to scratch vocals too. It'll be something in my mind, something like that, house, whatever. And those will always seep their way into tracks when I'm doing the scratch vocals first.
Yeah.
And then from there, I'm like, okay, well, I use this, and this. So it's taking a little bit of time, but
well, and the other thing too is like when you write like I guess you could say too basic or too simple, you know, and you're using like
or too complex.
Or that could be too. But like the biggest thing is like the basic and the simple ones. Like what I find myself doing oftentimes, especially with writer's block, is writing the most simple way possible, the most basic way possible. Like the door opened into a dark room, something like that. You know what I mean? But in reality, you could say that sentence a million different ways, and you should as a songwriter. You know, you should paint the picture rather than just hand it to them. You know what I mean? Like make them see, like, and envision what you see. And then if you do that and you break that one line down, you can break that line down 100 different times. You know, 100 that there's a verse, there's a chorus, there's something. You just did it with one line. You know, so it's like that's the biggest thing. And I feel like a lot of artists don't do that, well, especially nowadays, depending on the genres. But like a lot of artists, the lyrics don't really matter. But like in that case, that's a tool, you know, and like with writer's block, it's impossible to do that, but at least like that's something that we can do.
Absolutely. And so that actually that takes me back to this song, because I mean, some of the lyrics here aren't really groundbreaking. I'm gonna be like, yeah, it's the best lyrics in the world, man. I'm such a lyricist. There are times where I can go off and have something be absolutely crazy and mind blowing, and I was like, holy shit, I just wrote that. But I
Right.
think of specific moods and intonations and things like that. And in the second verse, yeah, I had to count it out in my head. And the second verse is a line, and it goes, "Meeting at the bar or meeting at a bar is a meet cute I can vibe with." And the intonation and everything about that line was just really, really good. And that's one of the things I like about this. And the more that I experiment with these types of songs, is it's learning about how to intonate properly and how to add backing vocals and ear candy and all these things that really accentuate what you're trying to say, even if it's not the most complicated thing in the world. Because the chorus is literally, "You could be the love of my life. I guess we'll never know."
Right.
It's not like I just fucking wrote Shakespeare out of thin air, you know?
Right. But it's catchy, and like the
Yeah.
way, like as soon as you just said that, it reminded me of the whole melody and everything. Because of course, like rarely on this podcast do I listen to the songs ahead of time, but in the Artist On Call remix, I'm gonna listen to every song because I'm ecstatic about every one I bring on. But like,
Thanks.
dude, it's catchy and it has licensing potential too, as most of your stuff does. Evidently, you have the experience on licensing, but like this totally does, production wise and lyrically. You know, you could sell just the stems of the instrumental. Even it's
Yep.
like every aspect of this song has the potential to do it. Now, is that an avenue you plan on taking this one, or do you have a special avenue you want to take this one distribution
So
wise?
for this track in particular, we've released it the same way, but we have delivered it to our partners. The plan is to get it on television, get it in brand spots where we can, which is really important just to lift artists, streams, revenue, stuff like that. We know it's super important. Obviously, it's extra cash in the bank, stuff that you can use to reinvest with marketing. And with this particular song, we've taken more time to really put an emphasis on the marketing. In the past, what we've done is just kind of thrown stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah.
So we'll drop a song. You know how it goes too, where artists will put out music and just be like, all right, here's a photo of me, and here's the album, and then here's my dog. And you're like, great.
Yeah.
We decided that we wanted to really put an effort into giving people content, especially because I hadn't released anything in so long, because
Mhm.
people have been super supportive. They're always ready to tune in. And we wanted to take that and do more things with it. So there's a fully animated lyric video that's coming out November 4th.
So where is this video releasing?
This is going to be on YouTube. It'll make its way
Okay.
to Instagram too. But the name of the game for us is making sure that people have more that they can immerse themselves in the song with.
Yeah.
And the artist did a fantastic job with the graphics. It really sets the tone. It's just got a great little storyline going on with it. And that's what we're really excited about.
That's amazing. No, that sounds awesome. And like what throughout the past few years, you know, when you're kind of, you know, basically probably jotting a bunch of notes down in your head and stuff for this album and everything, have you been listening to anything that you wouldn't normally listen to that you feel like inspired anything new, or has it been kind of the same type of stuff?
I was hoping you were going to ask me this.
Oh, nice.
So, as you know, I'm a big fan of Mac Miller, very formative artist for me.
No way.
Especially in
Really?
Yeah, I know, right? The Mac tat didn't give it off, or the giant Mac portrait.
Yeah, I was gonna
behind
say,
me.
if you're watching this on YouTube or anything right now, Mac is sitting right behind him.
Mac.
So.
There are two Mac indications
That's
alone
so sick.
in 1 second. That's like
Yeah.
standing in all 3 states at once.
Dude, but respectfully so. I mean, he
Absolutely
deserves it. Yeah.
Yes. And you know, we also know that my roots were in EDM too. So again, that kind of calls back to Avicii. I don't know why I take inspiration from deceased artists, but maybe because they were late and great.
Dude, I'm with you.
Yeah. This year in particular, I don't remember if we had talked about this previously, but Chelsea Cutler has always been a big inspiration of mine. She does kind of like electronic pop. Listened to her for probably 3 or 4 years. I love her music. It just really speaks to me. What she's gone through is something that resonates with me too, between relationships and just mental health and all this stuff. And then coming up on this year, 2 new artists. They're not new artists, but 2 new artists to me. Tyler, the Creator. And I guarantee you, I want you to take, if I tell you, let me set it up. I want to see if you can guess it. Female artist. Dark and moody, kind of sad music, but it's pop-ish.
Is it her?
It's not.
Dark. Oh, wait. Female pop. Oh, Billie Eilish.
Close. So Phoebe Bridgers.
Phoebe Bridgers. Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've talked about
yeah,
her.
it was the third answer.
Yeah, dude. I talked about her on this podcast a few times.
I fucking love her music. I just saw a bunch of friends of mine. She is not she's not an unknown artist, obviously.
Especially now.
Yeah, especially now. And
Yeah.
Twitter had kind of turned things into memes, not about Phoebe Bridgers in particular, but the people that listen to Phoebe Bridgers, and they were all jokes and shit like that. But some of it kind of resonated with me, so I decided to listen to Phoebe Bridgers, and I was like, this is absolutely something that I love. So my music tastes, as we know, are not like they're super exotic, but I like to have a range of things. So I go from Tyler to Phoebe.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good range.
And we'll talking in like song to song in a 10-minute capacity. Throwing a lot of classic rock these days too. I think it's my parents raised me on that stuff, but I didn't like it then. I think more so it being prevalent in the Marvel movies has definitely put me onto catchier stuff, and then expanded back into what I listened to as a kid and things that I've just found through the algorithm, stuff like that. There was a song in The Queen's Gambit called Venus, by Shocking Blue, and that song is a great song that I hadn't heard until then. Then I went and got a tattoo, I think like a couple weeks later, and I heard another song by Shocking Blue, but I don't remember what the title was, but it was great. And I was like, oh, I'm suddenly a Shocking Blue fan. And then I hadn't heard of them until this year, and they've been around since the 70s. So there's a lot feeding in right now, but I think it's good you also have super diverse music tastes too. So it's good to have your sort of horizons be expanded, because you don't know what's going to pull in from where.
Well, I feel like as musicians too, that's kind of why we blend so much, especially you and I, like, because it's like, I was into EDM late. I got into some of the 90s rock a little late, I grew up on it, and it was still like I respected the Foo Fighters back in the 90s and early 2000s. I was like, oh, there's Dave Grohl or whatever, but I really didn't get into them and give them the credit they deserve until later on, until like in the past decade or so, which sucks because I didn't get to experience every exciting thing before, Taylor passed, obviously. But like, it was like seeing Dave Grohl in Sound City and stuff like that. You get to kind of have these different experiences with the artists that make you respect them a lot more, and like, another good example, like you mentioned Tyler Creator's album, like, dude, that album as a hip hop album, it's diverse in itself just because it's so innovative, just so many things he did production wise and writing on that album. I mean, I think, like I always say it on this podcast, like J. Cole, Kendrick, like they're the tops in my book, but Tyler's up there because the stuff he does is like out of this world. Childish Gambino's another one, it's
the
like
creativity that people are showing is nuts. And I think the more that folks start just pulling in elements from everywhere, I would love to know what it's like to be inside Tyler's brain, because
dude, I wouldn't
crazy.
Like, yeah, because then he's
for
like
a couple hours.
Because then you see him on
commit to it.
Well, then you see him on like Jackass, and you're like, what the hell is he doing on here? It's like, what the hell? But like, he says such creepy shit sometimes. It's like, I don't know if I want to be in that.
His voice too is perfect. He knows how to. Did you ever see the one where he's making waffles on YouTube?
No.
That's a brilliant clip. I got to see that. It's
I got to see that.
Hilarious. I don't remember who he's with, but he's doing his version of the waffles, just Eggo waffles with some cinnamon and butter, and it's just all around such a good.
But that's what
entertaining. Tyler the Entertainer.
Well, it's kind of like that's what artists have to do, though. They have to be different. They have to do things that are different that are different from other artists, and like a lot of the genres nowadays aren't doing that. They're just mirroring so and so that was famous 5 years ago because she did, or he did this. It's like it's stupid, and the major labels are still doing it. They're the culprits, because they're like, oh well, we made Celine Dion famous, so we'll make you famous the same way. We made this part. It's like, great, yes, use that knowledge, but adapt to like the new industry. Adapt it, like make sure they're doing something different today, and not so blatantly obvious that you're trying to make her Mariah Carey or him Elton John or anything. Not that anybody could ever be Elton John again, but like, you know what I mean. Like, it's like I hate that whole like artificial approach. And what it is because labels don't want to focus too much on the creative side. The artists do, but the labels don't. The labels want to focus on the money side. So whatever they have to do to create that money again, they're just going to follow suit and be like, okay, well, we made that person famous, made that much money, so we're going to do the same thing. And it never works out the same. But like, that's absolutely like on point. Like you mentioned Phoebe Bridgers, Tyler the Creator, like they're perfect examples of those types of artists. Like the reason why they're getting so much attention now and the reason why they are as famous as they are is because they found their point, their niche in the industry, and they stuck with it. They didn't give up on anything. You know, they stuck with it. And that's, dude, it's commendable. And a lot of people don't get enough credit.
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing that too with artists. I was just put on to Noah Khan the other day.
Okay,
Noah
I've heard
Khan
the
in
name.
particular, he's in a similar grouping, you know, where Chelsea Cutler and Jeremy Zucker, Quinn 92, these very cult following is the wrong word, but they have very diehard fan bases because they have a sound that is very unique to them and works really well.
Okay.
And it's driving stuff to insanity. The numbers are awesome. And it's something that I think a lot of artists should take inspiration from. That's what I strive for, is hammering that sound and keeping the experimentation going on and making sure that whatever I deliver is on par, that you know it's me still, but it pushes the bar a little bit to make sure that we're playing around with things, but not getting too far out of the realm and hitting them with, you know, orchestral pop or something like that. Could be interesting.
Yeah,
Album
seriously.
5.
Dude, seriously, that would be sick.
Yeah.
The only thing that would be hard on that is the performance front. It's like, God damn, how are we going to make that happen?
I know, right? That's when you got to do, you got to pull a Kygo and you got to have the entire orchestra with you. Boston Pops is there with the piano. It's actually a very fantastic show.
Dude, Kygo is a great example too. He's
love that.
Freaking insane.
Mm-hmm.
But yo, so let's get into it. We're going to listen to I Told My Friend About You. I told a friend about you. My friend.
I told my friends.
I told my friend. Okay.
All of
them. Here we go. I told my one friend. So we're going to get into it right here. We're going to listen to I Told My Friends About You by Haelphon. And then we're going to get right back into it right here on this Artist On Call remix segment. Friends About You.
Drinks in and I knew the signs are optimistic. Call me superstitious, but had to stay in like a plan that would have missed this. Sitting by the phone, every hour passing. You could be the love of my life, maybe you never know. Text some other folks, push your name is far below. You could be the love of my life, maybe it ain't so. Yeah, I shouldn't pace myself so I don't scare you. Yeah. Yeah, you could be the love of my life, I guess we never know. Yeah, you could be the love of my life, I guess it ain't so. Yeah, you could be the love of my life, I guess we never know. Yeah, you could be the love of my life. There's a party for two and you're invited. I've told my friends about you, they're all excited. As for me, I'm delighted. We seem like we're thriving. Meeting at a bar, so me cute, I can vibe with. Yeah, sitting by the phone, every hour passing. You could be the love of my life, I guess you never know. Text some other folks, push your name is far below. You could be the love of my life, I guess it ain't so. Yeah, you could be the love of my life, I guess you never know. Yeah, you could be the love of my life. Yeah, you could be the love of my life, I guess we'll never know. Yeah, you could be the love of my life. Yeah, I shouldn't pace myself so I don't scare you. Yeah, I'm freaking out. Come put me down. I don't need another lesson or run around. I'm freaking out. Come put me down. I'd rather be alone than ghosts on account. Yeah, you could be the love of my life, I guess we never know. Yeah, you could be the love of my life, I guess it ain't so. Yeah, you could be the love of my life, I guess we never know. Yeah, you could be the love of my life.
That was I Told My Friends About You by Haelphon. That's Haelphon. You can find that on all the major digital streaming platforms. Dude, song's dope. Love that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Dude, I like how like even though you were sticking to like a format, you still fit like descriptive little lines in there, like picked up the phone, like stuff like that. Like you're actually drawing an image, but you're doing it really quick and then getting back on point to what the song's about. Like it's like pretty cool. Like you're just kind of fitting it in there. And dude, totally get it. And then like the bridge, obviously, freaking out, I'm freaking out, like totally realistic, totally relatable, absolutely.
A quick note about the track in particular, too, is the structure of it. The verses look at everything from a very optimistic lens. And then as you get to the choruses, it kind of falls apart. So there's the text message tone that comes in at the end of the first chorus and at the end of the song. And it basically resets the cycle. So it's to perpetuate that sense of anxiety, to be like, okay, everything's great. And then you overthink things and it kind of falls apart. And then it picks back up because things are good and you got a sign, and then it falls apart again. And then you have that giant, it's sort of like the penultimate moment where the bridge comes in and everything's huge and it's crazy.
Yep.
And then it breaks down a little bit and then you get the
Yep.
text message again. You're like, oh shit, never mind. It's all good. I was freaking out.
Dude, that's so cool because it's like an experience. It's not about listening, it's about feeling it too, and like kind of being there. Because like I said, you're saying these different little things that are making you envision something too. Like I said, it's so funny because like just picking up the phone, I could picture my you see it, you see it totally happening. Like in a way, like songs like this don't always need a music video because they're doing such a good job painting the with descriptive words. I definitely would love to see a music video on this though. That'd be sick.
Oh,
but like
there.
another thing I like too is hearing different songs by you so far too. I'm like the performances must be off the wall, because like I'm like, dude, it's exciting, especially like obviously this song's like mid-tier, like has some excitement to it, but like you will make the performances more fun. Like I could already tell, just by your energy. So that's like what has your experience been like with that, like performing your songs?
My experiences with performing have been somewhat limited, but it's something that I've tried to ramp up over the course of the years, especially because it's just a lot of fun. I think a lot of people get stage fright about things, and I do too, but the more I do it, the less it happens.
Yeah,
it eventually becomes something that's just a blast, and I really enjoy it. So I released a track, Make Up Your Mind, years ago. This is probably 2019, and it was the first sort of bigger thing that I had done in terms of a song. Most of the people at the show knew the track, so I got them to sing the chorus along with me, and it was just this killer moment. In December, I think I sold out the venue, and everybody was singing the song along, so I could stop singing, hold my mic out. Everybody knows the lyrics, so we're all just going for it. It's a great time. So one of the things that I'm excited about this song in particular is, even if a portion of the people know it, you can also always get a call and response for it because people pick it up like really easily.
Right.
And I'm excited for it. Trying to bring more live elements into things, which is where the sampling, stuff like that, the guitars, etc., come in.
Yeah.
So the goal is eventually to have a band behind it. But for now, it's still a good time because I think we're all just able to hang out and have a good time, listen to the music. And that's what it sounds cheesy, but it's really about just hanging out with people and just going for it.
Dude, as long as it's about fun, and like I tell every artist that I, talk to, it's like the day it becomes work and then it's not fun anymore, you're not doing it right, or you shouldn't be doing it. It's like it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something you enjoy, especially if you're like born to it, born to do it, you have the talent or whatever. Like you stick to it and you see it through, and that's without question. Any artist knows that. But the other thing too with performing, like where you were for a while, like in New York, it's cutthroat there. Like
it is.
They want you to bring head counts every show. They want you to bring, like, it's insane, the demand. Now, don't get me wrong, like a lot of popular artists roll through New York. They do well. It's fine. Bowery Electric, good venue, like these smaller ones. But like it's really tough to draw a crowd that's not your friends in the city, without the freaking boatloads of money into marketing. And to actually hold up the venue like that with their restrictions and everything. So in that time, I could see it being very difficult, because I honestly, like, there was a while where I was like, oh, I want to perform in New York, and I did a few shows in New York. Like the Reality Revised run, I did one there too, and that. But like but but my main thing is like I want to like these smaller areas, you know, you go up like obviously I'm 2 hours north of the city, so even if you hit like Danbury, which is like an hour away from the city,
Yep.
like small city, but it's like it's college. There's a college there. Like there's a New Haven, you know, another area. Those are all like
Good pizza too.
yeah. See,
Play
it's
a
like
song, grab a slice.
dude, seriously, cross the bridge over into Jersey. It's like you have small towns over there too that have these venues that like need to be cherished, you know,
Yeah.
and like by doing that, you're gonna pick up crowds from those places because they don't have such cutthroat rules that New York City does.
Yes.
You know, like even Westchester, which isn't like a train ride out of New York, you know, like hit that up. Like that's the thing is like the hardest part though is like I remember that bubble being in New York City. And it's like, how do I perform here? It's impossible, dude.
It's really interesting too because I found out from a friend of mine who's another performer. She's an artist in New York that venues were restricting people's ability to perform if they had multiple shows in the city in the course of a month. So if you had
Oh,
already
yeah.
played another one, you couldn't play at theirs,
Yeah.
which I get to a certain extent because, you know, if you have a small fan base, you're only going to be able to draw out a certain percentage of that fan base each time. If they
Right.
already went to your show in November 1st, the odds of them going to your show on November 18th are a little bit limited.
Right.
But you did mention Bowery Electric, and I will say I did play Bowery Electric.
How'd you like that?
Loved that venue.
Yeah.
So much. It was fantastic. I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had to perform in New York so far. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to doing more of that when I get back down there. Bowery Electric was the right vibe. The engineering, fantastic. We had a green room, which is a private bathroom, which is
Yeah.
great, especially for me. It was
Dude,
it
I'm
was
with you.
fantastic. I just loved having the space and hanging out with the other bands. We're all
Yeah.
shooting the shit, getting ready for each other's sets. And then I went out. This is also in December when I played the show in Boston too. But I went out before my set started and a group called Cosmic Garden. So I played a couple shows with. They were out there doing their thing. They're electronic. They're kind of like that orchestral pop, weirdly enough. They
Oh,
do
wow.
all sorts of experimental shit. And I was watching from this little perch and the stairs up by the door to the green room and was just vibing out. I was super nervous and listening to their music got me really, really excited for my set. And then I went up on there, played the hell out of it. And I look forward to the next time I play that venue. Another venue to shout out to is Jungle in Somerville, Massachusetts, which is one of the smaller
Yes.
ones that you talked about. The Jungle has hosted me multiple times. The staff there is super courteous. They have open mic nights, all sorts of good things, which I just really, really make it a lot easier to get out there and start performing. I honestly am so excited for the day that I do a world tour, the year that I do a world tour, because I love the performing aspect of it the most by far.
Dude, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I
It
remember
really is.
yeah, because I traveled to Vegas and back performing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, small shows. I mean,
It's still Vegas,
but
baby.
yeah, exactly. Well, the funny thing is we got there on St. Patty's Day,
Oh,
and I
fuck.
was supposed to. I forget the place I was supposed to perform at because it was a
We're
while
green.
ago. And I
They
think it
hated you for it.
Yeah, well, I thought it was I think it's an open mic. I forget, but anyways, I was going there, and we ended up not because no, it wasn't open mic because I had it scheduled, and we ended up turning it down because it was St. Patty's Day and we
Yep.
were in Vegas. But never any hard. Like it was weird. They filled the slot like nothing was fine, but like it was just so funny. Like the one time I could have said I played in Vegas, I didn't because
Yeah.
I'd rather go party.
You can
And
say
that's
you
the-
went to Vegas to play because
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
still true. You did go to
Exactly.
Vegas to play. Did you play in Vegas? No, but you
Right.
can still say that you did. That's
Right. The best was booking those. They're like, yo, wait, Alice Cooper? What? Like,
yeah.
and
You
I'm like,
know my
yeah.
actual name was Alexander.
yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, make sure you like. I didn't play it. I'm not trying to play. Like, no, I
Yeah,
was like,
guys,
no,
Alice
Rock-
Cooper is actually playing this open mic, and they're just gonna.
Yeah.
That's a good way to sell out a venue, man. You
Yeah,
get 200 people at an open mic night, and they're like, "Oh, Alice."
Seriously. So what have you noticed being like the difference like performing in Boston and performing in New York? Like what do you prefer? Like obviously Bowery Electric is one venue out of many in New
It
York,
is electric.
but yeah, exactly. Like New York does have a different vibe than Boston. What would you say you liked about each different vibe performing?
It's interesting to compare the two cities. We've talked about the two cities before, and
Absolutely.
their views on the arts. Boston does have a small but relatively thriving art scene. The opportunity that comes with New York is incredibly strong. There are open mic nights all over the city. There are music venues in every neighborhood. The accessibility of stuff is awesome. Sometimes it can be a little bit nerve wracking too, because with that also comes a lot of exposure that you aren't expecting, which is very good for the record. But it's sort of like a double edged sword playing for people you don't know, because you're A, worried about people judging you, but B, putting yourself out into an audience which you may not have been able to get before. Being from Boston, a lot of the shows that I fill are people that I know. So you have that opportunity to play a really good show because you know everybody, and it makes it a little bit easier. But I also had friends coming through for my shows in New York. So I do wish Boston had more opportunity and more small to mid cap venues. We're kind of seeing things pop out now too, which is exciting because, as urban renewal comes in, stuff kind of just shifts and people open up music venues in different places. That's a new inspirational sort of, that's a new vision that I have at some point, is open one on the North Shore of Massachusetts, maybe in Salem, Mass. Some point down the line, just do a music venue, because there's not one there and they really should have one.
It could be called Hooked on Haelphonics.
Haelphonics, the venue. Haelphonics, the frozen microwavable meal. You make a whole line out of it, dude. The branding. But yeah, I think the big thing is the openness to these performers, where I think that Boston has a potential, but I still don't think it's there. So maybe we're the generation, the crowd that finally pushes it to where it needs to be. And I think it will get there. New York having it accessible and at your fingertips is great, and definitely something that should not be taken granted for.
It's accessible. It's accessible at your fingertips, but it's not always affordable.
Yeah, that's also true. There's a lot of pay to play out there you have to be careful of.
Yeah.
There's a great company called Gig Finesse, which I booked all my shows through. They have a great deal with the artists. You're not paying for the venue in advance. It's through combined ticket sales, and it's a really, really good way to get your shows rolling, because they know how to fill a bill insanely well. Every time I played a concert through Gig Finesse, they're in a bunch of cities too. I don't remember where else they're at, but I'm super grateful for them. Every time they've ever packed a show, the artists, the performers, the bands have been absolutely killer. None of them have ever missed, and I love that.
So whatever algorithm they're using is working out perfectly.
They're doing something right.
That's sick.
They also follow up really well and just really treat the artists like people. Great folks.
Oh, it's definitely the type of companies I want to work with. Put it that way. Yeah, absolutely. So definitely check out Gig Finesse. Now, tell me a little bit about like what we have going forward with. I told my friends about you. Like what's next on the agenda after this release?
There's a big waterfall of content. So that lyric video is coming out, animated lyric video.
Next Friday,
November 4th.
So now if you're listening to this on the day this episode comes out, it's this Friday. Yes. But yeah, true. Absolutely. Friday, November 4th.
I'll also be doing a written interview with Buzz Music about some of the topics that we talked about and just the inspiration behind the song. And then from there, we're getting into the album announcement, a lot of video content, show footage from last year, the making of. There's so much stuff on the horizon. There's new merch coming. We really wanted to invest in giving people a better experience, and to just say thanks for sticking along with everything, riding it out with us as we get everything ready. The music coming out is really, really fun. I think it shows the growth, and it talks a lot about a lot of common themes that we all have, just battling through your life, trying to make sense of everything. And we try to support that with stuff we think people are going to like.
Dude, absolutely. I love it. And I can't wait to hear the new album, anything about it. I'm definitely going to come out to Boston one of these days and kick it. We definitely got to have drinks. We were supposed to back in New York and it never happened. But
I left.
Well,
that's my fault.
That and then COVID took its rampage. So that was like, I stayed out of there for a while. But yeah, absolutely, dude. Like, keep in touch. Like, you're definitely part of the Rise Up family. So this is a big thing. Check Haelphon out everywhere that you can. This dude's gonna blow up, about to. Listen to I Told My Friends About You now on every major digital streaming platform. Also check out his last album, In Transit. So dope. He was also Artist on Call number 20. So go check out that episode as well. So thanks again for coming on, man. And I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Just to clarify, was it Andy or Andrew?